it's Lindy here. Thank you so much for joining me. On today's episode, we are going to be making a yarn Christmas tree on a canvas. So I was at Michael's and I found this really pretty canvas on clearance. I loved the color of it and I knew that I wanted to make something for Christmas and I wanted it to kind of have a vintage look. So I grabbed this off-white ivory yarn at Michael's as well. So that's all you're going to need. You can also put it on a board. It doesn't have to be the same colors as mine. And then you're going to need some glue. Super simple. Some paper as well, but most of us have paper at our house. So what I did was I cut 2-inch circles using my 2-inch hole punch. If you don't have a 2-inch hole punch, you can absolutely use your Silhouette or Cricut. If you don't have one of those, you can trace them and cut them out by hand. Depending on the size of canvas that you are using will depend on the size of circle that you want. What I did was I cut my 2-inch circles, laid it out on the canvas to make sure it was the sizing that I wanted, and placed them before I covered them with yarn. And then you can adjust accordingly from there. So the way the tree is going to be shaped, we're going to have a row of 5 circles, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So go ahead and cut out all of those circles. And I'm going to only glue one in front of you. I've glued the rest just to give you a couple of tips that I learned along the way. So you want to use some kind of glue. I used my kids' purple Elmer's glue just because I could tell then where the glue was. And this part of the project does not need hot glue. You can use it, but it's gonna burn your fingers. Okay, so here comes my tips that I learned along the way. Put it on a paper plate, and I'll show you why in a minute. Only put glue in the center to start. All right, first you're going to take your yarn and you're going to start winding it into a circle, flattening between your 2 fingers as you start turning. After 4 or 5 turns, you can place it in the center of the circle on top of the glue. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Now you're going to start adding glue around the outside, but don't go all the way to the edge just yet. I also recommend using a similar color paper to whatever color yarn you're using, just so if it shows through a little bit, you don't see that stark difference. All right, now the reason we have it on the paper plate is it's so much easier to wind it onto the circles if it's on something you can flip around on a counter or a table. So put your finger in the middle of the yarn that's here and start winding your yarn around that circle and just spinning your plate as you go. Whenever you need to stop and add glue, go ahead and stop. Add some more glue, and this time I get a lot closer to the edge, but not all the way yet. And the reason I did this is because I learned as I was covering the other circles, your hands get kind of sticky with the glue. So this just makes it a lot easier. Okay, now I'm on to my last one, so I'm going to go ahead and add the glue to the edge. If you don't get all the way to the edge, it's okay because we can trim the circles off if we need to. If it's stuck to the paper plate, just bend it just a bit. You're going to trim your yarn and tuck it in. If you need to add a little dotted glue, go ahead. Okay, so go ahead and set those to the side, let them dry really well. And while they're drying, you can get your canvas in front of you. You want to find the center of the canvas. So my canvas is 12 inches wide and 14 inches tall. So the center is 6 inches wide and 8 inches tall. And I'm going to make a little mark in the middle with my pencil. So I'm going to lay out my tree starting with that center, okay? And this is the row that has 3 of them in it. Now, at this point, if you need to trim any of your circles, that maybe the paper's hanging off just a bit too much, go ahead and trim those. And if you need to add any extra glue too, because your yarn might be coming up. So then I'm going to add 2 above it, and then 1 more for the top, 4 below. And we're doing this right now so we can make sure we have the correct layout and have it exactly where we want it before we start gluing down. Plus if you need to trim any of that paper up. All right, then the bottom row has 5. Starting at the center and working out. And then I went and found a twig that's going to be my tree stump. So I'm going to go ahead and start gluing. Now, I would suggest gluing from the center out and up and down as well, just so if you have to adjust it at all, you can, because I can see right now my bottom row is not completely centered, and I want to make sure that it is. So I'm going to start with that center dot, put some hot glue, push it down, whoops. My hot glue gun is dripping. Got to make sure it doesn't get onto my canvas here. Okay, and then just keep continuing to glue your circles down until the entire tree is placed. I have all of my circles up on my tree, and now I'm going to add the stump. Now, this is just a twig from outside. You could come up with something else. You could even put ribbon there if you wanted to. So I'm just going to put a line of hot glue, put that stump down, and I'm done. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're notified every time that we upload a new video.